Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my Facebook Live for this week. Apologies for last week as we didn't have reception, and every time I tried to do this, it didn't work. My name is Deborah Byrne, and I am from Deborah Byrne Psychology Services, known as DBpsychology across social media. Today I'm going to talk about this week's blog, which is about depression, and it's actually about major depression or clinical or severe depression. But what I'm going to talk about today is actually helping yourself if you do have depression or if you are living with somebody who has depression. So just going back to depression itself, and it's kind of on a spectrum. So you can have mild depression, you can have moderate depression, or you can have severe or clinical depression. Major depression is another word that's used. Now, there is no tests that can determine whether you have it. There's no formal testing. It's usually done through a conversation, firstly, with your GP, and a list of symptoms that I've listed out in the blog, the symptoms that you can have with regard to depression, and how they would kind of tick the boxes, and they would look at how you are and your mood and everything about you, and how you're coping in life generally. Another word of a note that I would like to make is that grief can also mimic depression in certain aspects. So if you have had a bereavement, you are going to feel some of the symptoms of a milder depression. And, if it goes on too long, though, if it goes on a lot longer than 6 months, usually with grief, it takes you about 6 months for your emotions to start settling down. So it's a roller coaster between the death, of your loved one, and that first 6 months. It's very much a roller coaster. So try and be a bit patient with yourself, and maybe talk to a grief counsellor. A lot of the cancer societies, if it has happened to do with cancer, have free counselling for people. So I would advise you to check that out, and also check in with your GP if you think this isn't normal. If this isn't normal grief, that it's gone beyond that. Now, going back to depression. Mild depression would be, it'll have some impact on your life. It won't be too bad. You will need to go to your GP. You may need some medication. You may not. Maybe a case of coming to talk to somebody like me and, getting to the root cause of it, and maybe doing some stress reduction or looking at what's causing you to feel the way you are, and for us to talk about it and, look into the root causes basically, and to change it, to help change your lifestyle and help you cope a bit better. Moderate depression is a bit more severe than mild, and you would more likely need medication as well as talking to somebody. It's not just a case of taking the medication. It is a case of you need to also talk to somebody. Again, we want to get down to the root cause. Why is this happening to you? What is it maybe about your lifestyle? What is it about, something maybe that's happened in the past that we need to talk about? Major depression will have a very, very significant impact on your life. This is also known as clinical or severe depression. And you will perhaps need to talk to or be referred to a team, and they usually include psychologists, a psychiatrist, occupational therapist. There's a whole team of a mental health nurse. There's usually a whole team that would come together and give you the support that you need. Again, medication and therapy with somebody like me, a psychologist, would be necessary as well during that time. But the main thing I want to say to you is you can get better, and it does get better. I promise you, it does get better. Getting to the root cause and making changes in your life will help. So what I'm going to talk about later on is about how you can help yourself, or how you can help yourself if you're living with somebody with depression. So it's not just a case of just handing yourself over to the professionals and saying, okay, you deal with this. Like any mental health illness, you need to be proactive. And so I would recommend that you in conjunction with maybe your GP or your psychiatrist, or whoever you're working with, your psychologist, whoever you're working with, that you look into your lifestyle. So think about, exercise, eating healthy. We always say those two things. Quit smoking is another one. You may have been advised because of medication to take to cut out alcohol altogether. But if you haven't, please think about reducing alcohol, or watching your intake of alcohol. The other thing that I would advise people to do is maybe join a support group. So there are online support groups that you can have, because depression can take many forms. You could have PTSD, so there could be a PTSD group. There could be an anxiety group. That would be another part. Your depression, you can have an anxiety, problems with anxiety. You can also, it could be because of a bereavement, or, as I said, so therefore go to a lot of the services have support groups for bereavement. You could have had postnatal depression. There's a great group on social media on a Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, PND Hour. It's on Twitter. So it's just hashtag PND Hour. Great group. There's also PND Daddies, which is on Facebook, and there's postnatal depression in men. It's a brilliant group led by Tony. And they're there all the time. There are other groups, depending on what your causes of your depression is. I would advise you to join a support group. I think Grow is another group that you can join, Grow Ireland. If you look them up, there are lots of groups out there, and it is good to talk to somebody that has depression, that has had depression, and they can support you and know where you're coming from, and it's a sense of community and a good sense of making new friends, maybe because you may have withdrawn from society and lost friends. So even if you can't make that initial step to join a face-to-face group, that you would join an online group. If your depression is as a result of a disability or an illness or something like that, there is a group on Twitter. They have an hour on Thursday nights, and that's hashtag Able Hour. So that's for disabilities and for carers. Now, I'm also talking to carers this morning. If you are looking after somebody that has depression, you're also going to need to do some of these things like exercise, eat healthy, join a support group, as I said. But the other thing is relax. Both people need to learn to relax. And part of relaxation is to take care of your self-care, and that would be to take care of finances. Finances would have a huge impact on your stress level. So make sure you're getting your rights and entitlements. Now, I'm not a solicitor, I'm not an expert in this, but if you wanted to reach out, I have put the links in the group to MAPS and Citizens Advice, and maybe talk to the Department of Social Protection. I think they're Employment Affairs and Social Protection. They keep changing their names. So, talk to these people and see what you're entitled to. Maybe go to the Citizens Advice or look up the Citizens Advice online. I have provided links in the blog, and see what you're entitled to, and make sure you're getting everything that you are entitled to, that it reduces your stress. Now, if you've been made unemployed, or if you're having difficulty with your employer, you are covered. You can be. I can't say you are, because it's not very clear cut in terms of more moderate or severe depression as to whether it's classified as a disability or not. It may be. Some people are saying that it is a disability, and some people are saying it isn't. So you may need to take advice on that, and it could be the form of legal advice if you're getting pressure from your employer to return to work and you are unwell like that. So the whole point of what I've just said is reduce your stress. For both parties. A lot of the times when you're a carer, you have to take on the responsibility for a lot more stuff because you're also supporting your partner, and they're not, they're not able at this point in time to, to deal with the finances, to deal with work, to deal with a lot of other things that's going on in life. So it is only temporary. It's not going to be for years to come. Generally with the medication, if you need it, and especially you need to go and talk to somebody. You need to talk to somebody if you have depression. Even if you're not on medication, you need to be talking to somebody. Somebody like me, come and talk to us. We will help you. And both parties. If you're a carer and you're looking after somebody with depression, you need to be talking to somebody too. So come and talk to somebody, reduce your stress levels, look at your lifestyle, and read books. There's a great deal of self-help books that are out there. As I said, your depression could be part of bereavement, it could be part of a job loss, it could be part of PTSD, it could be part of a whole range of things, postnatal depression, it could be anything. So read books gives you a better understanding of where your depression is coming from, what maybe the root causes are. They'll give you more tips to help yourself. They may have links to audio in terms of mindfulness or some sort of techniques that you can do to help yourself. So don't rule out self-help books. There's a lot of, if you look at Kindle, I only know from looking at Kindle myself, I'm a great, good morning, Colette. I'm a great person for reading. So, look online and see. Kindle have a lot of free books up there. So, think about it. You can get it as an app and download it to your tablet, your phone, or your laptop or computer, whatever it is. You don't have to I think it's free. You don't have to actually have a Kindle machine itself. Although I have to say I do love my Kindle. So think about doing that. Think about reading the self-help books and reading the self-help books and going and thinking about what way can I actually help myself. That's the point I'm trying to make. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. Think about things that you can actually do to help yourself, because this, as I said at the beginning, is not just about the medication. It's not just about, joining that support group. It's not just about going and talking to somebody like me. It's not just about going and talking to your GP. You have to have a bit of, I need to help myself. So the medication will help you, get back some of that little spark of initiative. Getting out for a walk, even if it's just 5 minutes, will give you that little spark to motivate you. Don't sit back and think, I'll do it when I'm motivated, because that won't work. Okay, you're going to have to do a little bit first, and then the motivation will come. And I've said that in other blogs as well. And I've linked out to a number of other blogs from this week's blogs. Depending on what, as I said, depending on where your depression is coming from, I have written other blogs on this, and in those I do try to give some practical tips in those blogs as to what you can do and how you can help yourself. Always remember, this is about helping yourself. It's not about being passive and just lying there. Now, in saying that, I know with depression, please remember, folks, this is an illness. It's not a case of you can snap out of it. It's not a case of pull yourself together or man up or whatever term you want to use. This is not going to happen like this with depression and anxiety, and also with anxiety. You do need to reach out for help. So that would be the first thing you need to do, is reach out. Always reach out. Your GP, I would recommend your GP is the first port of call. and they can refer you on to service. But don't forget too, you can always self-refer. You can self-refer to a psychologist, a counsellor. We're there to help you. The other thing I would say is I've met a lot of people and they have done this, is they have tried to use illegal substances to help themselves and to help their depression or whatever other, their PTSD or bipolar or whatever. They've tried to help themselves by unfortunately hooking onto illegal drugs. And that, although you may get a high from those initially, they in fact only start you down a cycle of making your condition worse. You are better off going to your GP and saying, I need help. The prescription drugs that are out there on the market, and I'm not a GP, so you'd have to talk to your GP, are better able to support you than using illegal drugs. Talking to somebody, if you are not going down the medication route, which your GP decides, no, we'll hang off, let's go and talk to somebody first. Then if you are, if you have very mild depression, they may say to you, go and talk to somebody, try and get out walking, even for 5 minutes, go sit in the sun at lunchtime, particularly at this time of the year, which is winter. Go and sit in the sun at lunchtime, even wrap up warm, leave your hands free, 15 minutes, your face uncovered, and get outside and, get that vitamin D. It's very important to get out and get that vitamin D, particularly at this time of the year. And we have had such a long, dreary winter, which started last summer. People have had, again, SAD, seasonal affective disorder is another form of depression. So, think about, how can I help myself? This is one way I'm telling you now this morning, help yourself. Sit outside. And as I said, if it's too wet, too cold to get outside, sit beside, wrap a blanket over yourself, sit beside as close to a window as possible, a big French door, a big window, sit out in a solarium or a sunroom. Somewhere like that is a great place to sit, get some daylight. The windows will magnify what little sun there is and will help you hopefully absorb the vitamin D. Think about taking a supplement. The SAD lights are good. I know there's an Irish company in Wexford doing fob lights, and they are using blue lights, which are much better. Now, I'm afraid I don't have the name of that company. They're down in Wexford town, down on the outskirts of Wexford town. So maybe a Google search on that. So I think that's all for this morning. I'm not too, I think, self-help is mainly my theme this morning. Self-help in terms of helping yourself when you have depression is very important, and making that first step. Take that first step. I know it's hard. I know you feel like just pulling the covers over your head. No matter how as I said, it's a spectrum. So even if you have any mild depression, sometimes it can be hard to just even get out of it initially at the start. So think about just reaching out for help today, even if you aren't. I was talking to carers too this morning. So if you are caring for somebody, it's not unusual for the other person to get better, or if you are caring for somebody who has maybe a long-term illness or if it's a disability, you too can get depressed and your mood can get down, and it can gradually come up on you. Remember that with depression, it can just gradually come up on you. If you're in a lot of pain, it'll gradually come up on you. So think about just reaching out and ask for help. Maybe you'll need medication, maybe you won't. I mean, it's always on a case by case basis, and your GP, as I said, is the first person to talk to with regards to that. But reach out and talk to somebody, anybody, even online. Come and join. I've mentioned the groups Able Hour, PND Daddies, and PND Hour. They're just some of them. There's Mental Health Hour on a Sunday night, 9 o'clock. They're all on Twitter. They're all hashtag. Just put hashtag in front of the name. And they're wonderful, wonderful support groups out there. Even if you can't bring yourself to join a support group in person, face to face, join them online. I'm now waffling, so I'm just going to stop at that. But check out the blog this week. It's on DBpsychologyServices.com. And I do, as I said, have links out to other blogs, but also to other services like MABS. So if it is a financial pressure you're under and people are, your creditors, the mortgage company, whatever it is, are hounding you, remember an organisation like MABS will deal with your creditors for you. They will take that pressure off you. They will do all the talking, all the letter writing. You don't have to do this alone. Remember that. And I think that's the main point of this morning, is you never, ever, ever have to do this alone. That there is somebody out there that can help you. And we are more than happy. Absolutely more than happy. So just, reach out, please. And thank you all for listening. Bit of a waffle this morning, I know, and I apologise, but thank you for listening. Goodbye.